Hi everybody, it's Angelique coming to you live from the Shoe Chick Art Studio in fabulous downtown Las Vegas. Woo woo! So, I hope you're having a wonderful day. I have not been painting that much virtually, but I'm back in the game because you know why? This Delta variant ain't playing with us, right? So I want to keep you safe and be socially responsible. So I'm kicking up my virtual paint party game. So anyway, all these kits are available to you for pickup in Las Vegas, or of course I ship. I'm looking at myself here, and I don't like how like my face is getting cut off. But anyway, it's not about me; it's about the painting. So we are painting Embrace number 2. I have an Embrace number 1. This is Embrace number 2. This is my Grown and Sexy collection. Okay, it's a really good date night, right? Can you see it? Like set the mood right with some Kim or some Luther. I might be dating myself a little bit, but Maxwell, have the music right, get some candles going, and so far I have 2 paintings in my Grown and Sexy collection, and so far it's been Embrace number 1 and Embrace number 2. So this is Embrace number 2. Okay, so we're going to go over your tools, and you're going to take all the tape and everything off your paint kit so it looks like this. You're going to remove them out of your tray because we're going to have to do some mixing in the tray. So put them on the table. Also in your kit, you have a disposable apron. You're going to open that up. You might have to put a little bit of water in your fingers because it actually fully opens up and goes over your head, okay? To protect your clothing from the paint. And you're going to fill that water cup about halfway full, okay? And also inside that bag is a highly absorbent blue paper towel, a couple of more paintbrushes. You might have a mixing stick, you might have a pencil, you might have a Q-tip. I don't know, the kits like vary depending on what we're painting. So anyway, your reference photo is not quite this big, but you have one. That's for all you OCD people. The people that are going to be obsessed with creating this painting just the way it is. But you can do anything you want with the color palette provided. You only have 4 colors. You might have brown in there. I'm not sure because sometimes people have requested brown. So here we go. So the objective is to have fun. That's the primary objective. This is Paint Party 101. So I try to make it really easy. All my canvases are pretty much pre-traced for you. Very few of them are not, like maybe some of the trees or something like that aren't pre-traced. But anyway, this one's pre-traced. We're going to take that sponge brush. We're going to dunk it in the water. I'm going to take you about 99% through the painting and leave you to complete the rest on your own, okay? So, dunked in the water, light coat of water on the canvas. This tracing is a little bit more than pencil, so it's not going to wash away. Don't be scared. The important features, like in the face, I did with a marker, so they're really not going to wash away. And what we're doing is we're priming the canvas so that it is ready to accept paint. Okay, so we don't want it to be wet when we start. So we kind of want to absorb in the canvas just a little bit, dry a little bit. You might want to fan it. You might want to take your blue paper towel and dab it off a little bit if you put way too much water on it, okay? Otherwise, it'll dry just okay. While we're waiting for it to dry, what we're going to do is we're going to paint the red background, okay? So I want to tell you about kind of like the steps we're going to do. If you look at the reference photo, the background is red, so we're going to outline, get as close as everything we can, and we're going to paint the red background, okay? Then we're going to take the flat brush and we're going to fill in all the little gaps where we couldn't get so close. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mix gray paint, and we're going to paint their gray bodies. We're going to do their black hair, and then we're going to do that yellow blanket, okay? That's what I'm thinking we're going to do, but this is live, so, wherever the spirit moves me is how we'll move, all right? So, okay, so red paint first. Mine is dry, just that quick, because the canvases are really dry, and what we're doing is priming them, like I said, so they're ready to accept paint. So I'm taking that sponge brush, right? And I'm going to squeeze it out on that blue paper towel because I don't want any water on it. And then I'm going to take the very tip of it in my red paint. Almost dropped it. I drop stuff all the time. That's the fun. That's the fun of live videos because I don't edit. So it is what it is. Okay. So the tip of the brush in the paint. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline. I'm going to, as close as best as I can, like her hair. Then I'm going to outline. I'm trying to go right on top of the trace lines. because I want anybody to know that I traced it. Just get as close as you can. If you can't get quite that close, it's okay, because we're going to take that other brush and fill in the gaps. Now, I am looking at my reference photo at the same time, which I have on the back of the canvas, but I'm going to pull it out so it doesn't look so weird that I'm looking. You're probably wondering, where's she looking? Okay, so you got to keep in mind I'm painting sideways too, right? So, it's a little tricky. Trying to get as close as I can. And then there might be, all right, that's good. Then I'm just going to paint the background in red. And I'm going to play a little nondescript YouTube music so that my video doesn't get tagged. So let's just paint the background in red, okay? Using vertical brush strokes. I'm even going to paint the sides so I don't need a frame for my masterpiece. Hope you have your wine and your good music playing. For date night, you might want to just turn the volume down so you don't even have to hear me, right? Put your own music on and just watch what I'm doing and go through the motions. I think you could paint this painting with just watching what I do, and you wouldn't necessarily have to hear me. I'm telling you, I think it'd be a hot date night, y'all. Hot date night. All right, check it out. The red is complete. Now, these are acrylic paints, so they get better, bolder, brighter as you apply coats, okay? So if you don't like your red background, you just apply, let it dry, and then apply another coat later. That's the key. You don't want to glob all the paint on there. That's not a good thing, okay? So I am going to take, I was really into that for a minute. Like, I really started, like, painting and listening to the music, and, like, I forgot I was even videotaping. I don't even know if that's obvious, like, if I played this back, but really, I was just, like, enjoying the flow of the play, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm doing a video. So, anyway, I dropped my paint kit. So, I am taking my flat brush, going into the red, and then I'm just kind of filling in some of the gaps here. When we paint her hair, we're able to kind of manipulate the flow of the background just by adding the red paint, the black paint on there. So right now I'm just going right over. Just getting a little bit closer to those trace lines because it's kind of hard with that sponge brush. So sometimes I use this brush first and then I go with the sponge brush, but you know, it's totally up to you. All right, so I closed in all those little white gaps in there. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to put it in my water cup. Don't put the sponge brush in your water cup because it is a sponge and it will soak up all of the water. Okay, so we are going to use that later though. So I have it resting in my tray like this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I need to make some gray paint because I'm going to do their bodies in gray. Now you can make it light gray, you can make it dark gray, totally up to you. You're going to mix it how you want it. And I'm just going to pour it out. If you have trouble, you can use the back of your paintbrush to get it in the tray. So I'm putting a little bit of white there. Then I'm going to put a little bit of black right here. And then I'm going to, you can use the back of this brush if you want, but I'm not. I'm going to use my flat brush, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. I have kind of a small working area, so. Okay, I swished it around in here. I'm going to wipe it off on my blue paper towel. Wipe it and get all that red paint out. Then I'm going to take a little bit of the black and mix with the white. It just takes a tiny, tiny bit to get the color, the desired level of gray that you want, okay? So I'm mixing, mixing, mixing. And I got gray like that, okay? You can always add more white later, actually right directly on the canvas. Now I got a big old glob of paint on my paintbrush, so I'm going to wipe it off. Then I'm going to go into that gray paint. And remember the cool kids in school, how they used to outline and then they used to color things in? Well, that's how we're going to do that here, okay? So I'm going to outline. I'm going to do, pick a body. I'm going to do her first. So I'm going to outline her body first. And then I'm going to paint her in, okay? And I'm going to outline her dark with the first color that I mixed. And then I'm going to add a little bit more white and color her in with a lighter color gray, just because I want to. You can do it any way that you want to because it is your painting, right? Now, you might be saying, like, thinking, like, I'm going a little fast, and that's the power of video, right? You can always pause me. Okay, because I'm not trying to make a 2-hour video. And I'm not trying to make this perfect. I'm just trying to give you the basic foundation so that you can complete the painting on your own. I got a little red in there, but that is okay. So you might have to look at your reference photo every now and then and see, like, what we got going on. Like, that's her chin right there. It gets a little confusing. That's her chin, but that's also her neck. So that's going to be gray too. So I have to look at my reference photo a lot because they're so entangled that you might lose track of what lines are what, okay? So let me, I'm going to paint everything gray on her. And I'm actually going to add a little bit more white paint because I want it to be a little bit lighter. So I'm adding a little bit more white paint to my gray. You can actually go right over her face, those lines in her face, because it's markers, so it's gonna come through, so yeah, you can paint the details later. Okay, so I'm going to proceed by painting her gray. Okay. Let's start with her leg. If the paint gets a little sticky, add a little water to your brush. If it's too dark, if it's a little darker than you want it, add a little bit of white paint to it. You can mix right on the canvas. If you want it darker, add a little bit of black paint.
adding a little bit more white paint because I want it to be just a little bit lighter than gray. Hopefully you can still see the lines like that define her leg and her butt and her thigh. I can still see mine in there. If not, we'll work it out later, right? Doing her arm. I'm looking because I'm like, where's her boob? I don't want to lose her boob. Boob's right there. I was getting confused for a minute. That's why I said you're going to have to look at the reference photo. Don't want to lose her boob. I'm going pretty quick. Might have to apply a second coat, but I'm not because I'm just doing demonstration purposes here. Definitely want it to be more even and smooth. Might have to freehand her boob in there and some of those lines later on, but we'll get it. Paint gets sticky, add a little bit of water. It's not flowing the way you want. So now her face. I'm adding a little bit more white. Going over her face here. Painting right over that eye because I can still see it. If your paint's too dark, you might not want to do that. You might add a little bit of water. I got an ear here. All right. So that's a little tricky. So make sure you're referencing, you're looking at your reference photo, seeing if it makes sense where we have all that gray. That's her neck. And the thing that I kind of lost in the paint process is her chin line there. So I'm going to have to remember that when I go back and do like all the detail work, or she's not going to look right, okay? And then as I'm looking, I'm like, okay, what's this gap in here? Like between his fingers, is that red or is that black? And as I'm looking at my reference photo, it's actually red. So I'm going to swish my brush around in my water. I'm going to wipe it off on my blue paper towel. And I'm going to go, because that's how you change colors, I'm going to go into that red paint, and right in between his fingers there, I'm going to make it red, okay? That's a little tricky point there. Kind of missed that. And that's okay. All right, so you can see her skin's not really like even like I want. So I'm going back into my water, getting that red off there, wiping my paintbrush. And I'm going back into my water, and I'm just kind of still have red. You might have to change your water if you get that effect, but a lot of times you just have to wipe your paintbrush off a little bit. I had a little bit too much water on the brush and got that white streak in there. So I'm just taking a little water and kind of evening out everything. And as it dries, of course, it's going to give you a whole different look, okay? So I'd probably do another coat of gray there. So what I'm going to do right now, because I don't want to lose like all the details of her body, I'm going to jump to that fine point detail brush right here. And I am going to work out some of the details so I don't get confused when I start painting him. So I'm going to start from the bottom. I'm going right into my black paint, just a little tiny bit. And I'm going to start working on the details of her, like kind of outlining a little bit, but not too much. I don't want it to look like a coloring book, right? You hear me say that all the time. So I'm just really lightly going over those trace lines because I could still see them just a little bit. Very, very lightly going over those lines. Okay, with just a small amount of paint. Like I just went back into my black paint. I'm scared that that's too much. So I'm going to wipe it off a little bit on my paper towel. And then I'm going to go over her leg. Just kind of dragging it through so I can see where her body stops. And then I want to make sure I put that jawline back in there that I missed. And it kind of goes like that up to her ear a little bit. Okay, and a little tiny bit of black back into my black, wiping it off on my paper towel, outlining her eye and her eyebrow, in her ear, making sure it all makes sense to me, okay? All right, that makes more sense to me. Now I still have a little tiny bit of black on my brush. I'm going to outline her boob. Little tiny bit of black, and where her arm is bent. Again, use your reference photo. Her arm comes down here too. And I'm basically just dragging just a small amount of black paint so I can see what's what, okay? So that makes things a little bit more clear for me. While I'm doing that, I'm going to take the black, since I'm working with this detail brush, and I'm going to go ahead and outline him so I can have an idea of where I'm painting for him, okay? So his hand, that's the blanket right there. That yellow is going to be the blanket or the wrap, the sheet, the bed sheet. So I'm going over his hand, going over his body, not the blanket, just outlining his body, or the sheet, right? So going over his body, so that's the blanket, that's his body. That's the blanket. The blanket's going all the way through there. This is his body, okay? Little tiny bit of black paint. That's part of his muscle too, so. Kind of keep me on track of what's the blanket and what's his body. What's the sheet and what's his body. Sheet sounds sexier than blanket, so we're going to call it a sheet. A satin sheet. Okay, so outlining his hand, which is a good thing to do with this detail brush. All right, I'm happy with that. Since I'm using this detail brush, I'm going to go back into my gray paint, and I'm going to paint his fingers because they're going to be hard to paint with that flat brush. So I'm going right in. And see, when you're painting, you want to do the basics first, get the paint down, and then work on the details. So if you're like, ugh, I don't like the way it looks, basics first and then work on the details, okay? So let's see, I did his hand. I'm going to do his other hand with the detail brush. And then I'm going to take the flat brush and I'm going to work on his body, okay? All right, so I'm putting that brush away, swishing that other brush around in my water, wiping it off on my paper towel, and then I'm going to go into the gray paint and paint his body, okay? Let's see if I can find a little music. If it's bothering you that your paint is your water is red in your cup, you could change your water cup. But mine is pink too. Look, I'm working with it. Working with the gray paint in my tray, painting his body. Remember, I take you 99% through, or really 90% through. Really, it's supposed to be 90, but then I get all carried away, and then I end up like taking you all the way through, or pretty darn close. All right, so. All right, and then his body is also right here, not on the satin sheet there. That's the sheet right here. This is the sheet right here. That's her hair. What is this right here? What is that space right here? So I'm looking at my reference photo. Guess what? That space was supposed to be red. Swish my brush around in the water. Drying it off. Going into my red paint. And I'm going to paint that area in red. I missed that. All right. You know what other part I missed? His face. Swishing my brush around in the water, wiping it off on my paper towel, painting his face in gray. Lightly going over his features so I could take the detail brush and work those out later. So ideally you want to work with the color on your brush all the way through, but you know, it doesn't always work out. You just rinse that brush off, and you go into the paint you need again. You just go back and forth. So I would definitely put another coat on there. Again, totally up to you. I believe this is his ear right here too. Voila! Okay, gonna use black last because the black is really bold, right? I'm gonna pick up my sponge brush again, which has not been in the water. It's been laying in my tray. If you put yours in the water, you might have to squeeze it out on the paper towel so that so it's not wet. Because what I want to do is, you know, I could just tell you this, but I want to do it. I want to put another coat of red on my background because I want it to be darker. And like I said, acrylic paints look better as you apply the coats, kind of like when you get your nails done, ladies, and the color isn't right, and then they put the second coat on, and then you can finally see the color. Same paint, same concept, water-based, washes very easily off your skin, not so easily off your clothes. It does if you address it right away, but I would definitely put another coat of red on there after it dries. Something about that red that really makes the painting come alive, right? So spend some time and really, you know, get that red down there. Get it the way you want it. I'm putting quite a bit on my paintbrush and working pretty fast here. Okay. And again, like, you can get really creative with this painting. You don't have to do it like me, right? Maybe you get a whole different color palette. I just happen to like red. All right. Then from this point, like I said, we're saving the black for last, right? I am going to go into the yellow paint. Swishing my brush around in the water. Again, I'm using the flat brush. Wiping it off on my paper towel. Going into my yellow paint. And by the way, everything in your kit is disposable. So these aren't meant to be used over and over again. If you're going to paint with me a lot, I'd recommend investing in some good paint brushes. Okay, yellow. Where's the sheet at? You might have to look at your reference photo, but I'm pretty confident that everything that I left white is actually the sheet. So painting the sheet in all the way around, okay? All right, the yellow sheet's in place there. Going right over those trace lines. I want anybody to know that we traced it, right?
All right, next color is black.
Then you're going to go back and do all your detail work, okay? So, swishing that brush around in the water. It's pretty yucky, but that's okay.
Black covers up everything.
Wiping it off. This is really going to peel the painting together. Doing her hair. You can be really meticulous about your trace lines. You can kind of create new ones. Kind of just wiggle your brush down. And being very careful around her ear. You might want to use a detail brush. I'm just using the corner of this flat tip brush. It's kind of working out for me. Is her hair wavy on both sides? It is. So I'm kind of freehanding it a little bit. Just kind of wiggling my brush along the sides. Painting it in. You don't want to use water too much on this black because you want it to be opaque, meaning no light coming through, no white of the canvas, so you might have to do it a couple times, okay? The important thing is you don't want any white gaps, so you might have to make her hair a little bigger, or you might have to go into the red because you don't want any white gaps around her hair, okay? Alright? So I can see like I want another coat on there later. But for right now, I'm just trying to give you guys a lay of the land so you can finish it on your own. Now I'm taking a look at the reference photo on his hair because I'm kind of confused. And so I'm going to outline it first so I don't make any mistakes, even though there are no mistakes. If you put something where you don't want it, you just wait for it to dry, put a little white paint over it, and fix it. White paint's like your eraser. Okay, so check it out. Isn't it amazing how that black just really brings it all together? Now I know that there's a few really dark spots right here, like showing where the arm connects. It's like a little triangle. And right here. You can look at your reference photo if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about. Alright, look. I get excited because like the paint, the gray has already dried. It looks a little bit more even. I'd probably do another coat over that. Now this tutorial has been like 30 minutes, right? It really takes about 3 or 4 hours to do a great painting, okay? So my purpose is to give you the lay of the land so you can work it out and finish the details on your own, okay? So right now, I'm going to go, and what you would do next is maybe apply another gray coat on there if you want. No white spaces, right? And then take this little tiny detail brush, little tiny bit of paint, when you get that gray how you want it, and start going over some of the details, some of those things that are always already traced out for you. Remember, you don't want it to look like a coloring book. So very lightly, bridge the gaps where you see the white spaces, add the details like his ear, maybe his hand a little bit, but not really super hard lines, okay? Just very, very light. I hope this was fun. Let me turn the light and see if you can see a little bit. See, it's coming together. Nowhere near done. At least a couple more hours. Turn your music on, get your wine, enjoy the painting experience. I hope this was fun for you. If you're in Vegas, you can pick up a kit. You can have them delivered for free. Just text paint to 702-271-3151. I'll hit you back. Tell me what kit that you want. Enjoy. enjoy the art process. I love doing what I do. I love sharing it with you. Thanks for watching. Be safe. There'll be more videos coming from me. Subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Take care, everybody. God bless.